like I'm not in business right now.
You're not in business. Okay. Okay, what we're going to work on today is getting started with online videos for SEO. Okay, as I was mentioning earlier, one of the targets and plans of the seminars is to not necessarily target specific how-to steps like you do A, B, C, and D, but instead to talk about the format and infrastructure that you have to deal with to make the decision, and give you the kind of ideas and background you needed to make decisions that are appropriate for your business. So with that in mind, let's look at what we're going to work on today. We're going to work on, first of all, talk about why you would add videos to your website and what kind of factors and ideas and whatnot would help you decide what's going to be the best kind of video, the best kind of format. We're going to talk about the difference between a camcorder and a webcam and how that would be appropriate for some kinds of videos and inappropriate for others. How can I choose the right recording tool? We're going to talk about features of various types of recording tools and how that would fit in with your strategy. What is screencasting? We'll talk about what that means and how that's appropriate to some kinds of businesses, not others. What are the guides for choosing the right screen recording tool? There are literally hundreds out there, so it's very difficult to decide, okay, what's the best ones? I'm going to show you the top 5 of each of them and talk about the various guidelines you would use in selecting one if that's appropriate. And then last but not least, video editors. What do you do? Some of you are going to want to edit your video. Some of you don't need to. So we're going to talk about free video editors, editors that are considered entry-level video editors, and some of them that lead right into very professional video editors that you might want to move on to when you get really good at it and you want to get really fancy. That doesn't mean you need to. That just means if you find it appropriate for your business, you'll have that information. Okay, this is the fishy goal. Give a man a fish, he won't starve for a day, and teach a man how to fish, and he won't starve for his entire life. And that's kind of the purpose of these seminars. That sort of sums it all up. We're going to talk about how to fish. So that's our fishy goal. Every once in a while after the seminar, somebody comes up and says, but I expect you to show me how to do X, Y, and Z. The trouble is, that person, if I showed that person X, Y, and Z, all the rest of you would be falling asleep, because that was appropriate for them. So that's why we kind of avoid that. So we try to target the general information that helps you all make these decisions. Okay, you can't do anything on the internet without talking about pandas and penguins. And so we're going to talk about, on videos, penguins and penguins. First of all, one of the things, these are the things you need to work on in order to stay out of the way of penguins and penguins. That's Google's algorithms that have just come out in the last few years. You're looking for quality content. You want to enhance the user experience. That's a biggie for Google. What real sharing of real quality content. The penguin algorithms especially have come down hard on what's called link stuffing and really hurt people that did a lot of that. So the bottom line is Google's trying to push everybody to building a solid foundation that ultimately won't be affected by any penguin or panda that might come in the future. So building a foundation and then going from there. So if you do something that then gets smacked down, you won't drop completely to the 60th page. You might drop to the bottom of the first page for a while until you fix whatever it is you're doing. Some people literally got knocked out of the game because all they were depending on was things that Google was going to slap down. So you got to be careful. Build a solid foundation. And then you always want a solution to a real need, not a solution to looking for a need. So that's going to be one of the things. These are the kind of things you want to do when thinking of your videos. So, doing web videos for the right reasons is where we're going to go on this. We're going to look at some business goals real quick, and we're going to look at SEO goals. Now, it just so happens that the business goals segue right into your SEO goals. It's just that you can't ignore your business goals, otherwise you won't have that solid foundation. the business goals is your solid foundation. That's the part that sits there regardless of what else is happening in the rest of the world. The SEO goals is something you're building on top of that as an extension of those goals. And you'll see this little acronym. Computer people love acronym, and it means search engine results page. So when you see SERPs, you can put S after it oftentimes, they're talking about where you landed in the search engine results page, whether you're on the top or the bottom or whatever. Okay, business goals for videos. These are pretty classic kinds of goals, but they're applying them to videos. A lot of times, one of the biggies for videos is educating your consumer, teaching them something about your product or service, or teaching them something about how to do something that uses your product or service, or integrates with your product or service. Anything that ties into your product or service. The more you make your product or service valuable to people and show them how it's valuable, the better your product's going to look. So finding ways to integrate your product into everyday needs, everyday business needs, is going to help your product stand out. Customer service. Videos can oftentimes help customers solve their problems without calling you. If you can lower your customer service costs, then that's a good goal. So if you have a bunch of how-tos on how to use your product, they go there, they look at the how-to, and guess what? They don't call you. And guess what? They do it right, so they don't break something, and et cetera, et cetera. So customer service can really be served by it. Building authority. Again, because you're showing people how to do something, you are building your authority in that area. You are showing that you are an expert. And that building of authority is very valuable, not only for the general audience, but Google likes that too. Google's really big on authority. So when you build your authority, then more people come to look at you, and that builds your rankings later on. Building confidence and trust. Videos are like the next thing you can get to where you see somebody, where you see a face, where you see a voice, and you're not just looking at text. It personalizes you and your business. And that just instinctively builds confidence and trust. It just happens because we're human beings. So giving a chance for people to see you, hear you, feel like they're interacting with you is going to build confidence and trust, just because that's human nature. Creating proper expectations. This, for me, in my business, is really important because so many people have so many ideas on what to expect when they want somebody to install something on their website or build a custom program and stuff. So I spend a lot of time developing the expectations that my customers should have. Because if your customer has the right expectation, you're going to have a better chance of pleasing them. If your customer's expectation is off base somewhere, you're never going to please them. It just isn't going to happen. So building the right expectations is one way you're going to set the stage for you pleasing your customer. And last but not least, generate exposure, excitement, and desire for your brand. Building your brand is always a good thing. And that is one of the things that videos will help you do. Because people then will share some of your videos to friends. And then you get the top of mind kind of concept going. Okay? And then, of course, that segues right into video SEO goals, where you're talking about ranking, traffic, and conversions, measuring it, and building that. Building backlinks, because people are sharing your videos and passing around and saying, hey, you really like this video, it's really going to help you do X, Y, or Z. And last but not least, but building brand impressions and exposure. Now, each one of these is a separate strategy. So we're going to look at each of these strategies separately. If I'm missing something you want to ask, stop me, okay? So don't just let me run on if you've got something that you want to ask. Ranking traffic and conversions. Okay, here's one strategy. Now, you may do all of these strategies, or you may pick one that's really important for your business. So I'm just going to go over it. Your strategy here is to improve click-through and reduce your bounce rate. Add rich snippets that will improve your click rate, because the rich snippets add text to your link in Google so that people can read that little bit of text and go, oh, that's what I want, so that they can target you and separate you from the crowd in the ranking page, okay? Okay, within your website location, you want to include, if this is your goal, you want to include your videos as part of the rich content on that page. It's got to be supported by what's on that page. It can't be standalone. Google likes that support and uses a lot of that content next to the video to add to the rich content snippets. So you want to have those as a pair, working together. The next thing is hosting. You need to either be self-hosting or what we call paid secure hosting. Basically, if you want to use this strategy, you don't want to be using some service like, oh, there's Wimby and Etsy, and there's a bunch of where you come in, they do everything for you. Your domain is not quite your domain, or it is your domain, but everything for you. So it's not really you in the really truest sense of the word. This is the problem if you're using WordPress.com blog or the Blogger or something like that instead of having your own real domain. So you really want your own domain, because that's what you're going to tie your video to, is your domain. So that when people see the video, they're linking back to your domain, not somebody else. You especially don't want, if this is your goal, to put it on YouTube. Because guess what? You'll be promoting YouTube. Yes, there's a way to add tags to it that then come to you, but it's not as clean, it's not as strong as having that domain and having that source right to your own domain. Okay? Last, and along with that embedding, you really don't want somebody embedding your video in a way that doesn't point back to your domain. So, if you want to allow embedding, you want to do it in an iframe, so that the iframe is pointing back to your domain. Yes?
On what you said about YouTube, I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, because I was told that if you post your video on your YouTube channel and it's on your website, that you're actually, because YouTube is such a huge search engine, you're actually going to, and you post underneath your video, you know, wecarebags.com, that it's actually going to up your SEO, not hurt your SEO.
I didn't say this would hurt your SEO. I'm just saying if this is your strategy, this would be the best way to do it. I didn't say that that's bad. I just said this
What do you mean
would...
best strategy? Because I actually agree with her, because what it is YouTube's owned by Google, so what I'm thinking is you want to host your videos on YouTube and you put the links back directly to your site, and because of the fact that Google's going to go through YouTube, it's going to help you out to be found for those particular videos.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't going to help you out. I'm just saying if this is your primary focus strategy, it is best to self-host, so that the video comes from your website. So when they look at the URL for the video, it says mydomain.com, not youtube.com. And then once they get into it, then there's the links. If you go watch the video on YouTube, you'll see the other stuff to your domain. But that's after you get to YouTube. You want the actual video. I'm just talking about the strongest linking and ranking is if you are self-hosting. That's the strongest. Okay? That doesn't mean that's bad or that it doesn't help you. And if you can't self-host, and if you don't have secure hosting, okay, that's what you can do.
I understand what you're saying. So basically it just depends on the company. If there's a bigger company, what they'll actually do is they'll actually have their own videos hosted on their own site. And then you could actually have videos hosted on YouTube as well as support.
That's what we do.
I understand.
Yeah. We take a short version of a video and we put it on YouTube so that we get that ranking. Then we take the big version, the real version, and we host it ourselves so that we're getting the biggest kick from that video. Okay? So we're catching both. Okay?
Are there any good hosting companies out there that you can suggest?
Well, we self-host, so
You have your own computer, your own server.
yeah, we have our own servers, a secure co-located servers, so we do everything ourselves, and we actually provide hosting to our customers, so we actually are a hosting company as well. So, yeah, but my understanding is like HostGator is real popular with a lot of developer type people who, you know, are doing that. There's several others. I could give you a list if I went and looked it up. But yeah, there's several like that. GoDaddy is used by a lot of people, but I hear a lot of bad about them too. So I'm not going to judge that. I am just recently working on a project where the client that's on GoDaddy, and it has been a nightmare. Nothing but a nightmare. Permissions problems. I'm trying to install a shopping cart. It's constantly complaining. GoDaddy's not helping me set the permissions correctly. They don't have the tools for me to do it without involving their tech support all the time, and it's costing the customer. If it was on my server, I would have had it done in 5 minutes.
I have HostGator and they've been very good.
Yeah, I understand HostGator's. I've heard a lot of good things about HostGator, okay? But GoDaddy has not been a good experience for me as a developer trying to help companies.
Have you heard of a company called DirectNick?
No, but there's hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you hosting services, you would get, you know, tens of thousands of hits. So I'm just saying HostGator has come up frequently as being very good for people. Okay, and so, you know, that's the feedback I get. Okay, link building, often called backlinking and things like that. You want to build links to your site. You want to encourage sharing, so you need a share button right there by your video, wherever it's at, so they can share it. You want to share your embed code wrapped in the iframe using the idea that we talked about in the previous one. That way your domain is exposed the best. If you need to use YouTube, then that's fine. But the best way to get the maximum kick for your domain would be wrapping it in an iframe. And you can do that. You can have your embed code include an iframe wrapper. You want it to be the central focus of the page with some supporting content, but you want it right there. Boom, they landed, there it is. Because that's what you're trying to get them to do. You're trying to get them to share the video. That's what you're after. Again, hosting and self-hosting, secure paid hosting, same reasons. And again, you want to discourage embedding outside of your domain and allow embedding in the iframe. So that's your kind of your goals, your goal framework for that. The last one, now we get to do YouTube. This is where YouTube comes into play, is brand building, because your target now is to go viral. You want maximum eyes, you want this thing to spread and go crazy. So the best way to do that is going to be on places like YouTube or Vimeo. Vimeo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I read it, but I never have to say it very often. It's one of those things you see and you read, but you don't ever speak it. You want a very compelling, high interesting format. Highly interesting format. This is where actually going viral is hard. It's one of those accidents that happen to some people, but if you try to do it, it's hard. And there are companies out there that specialize in this. There's companies that do nothing but create viral content for big companies. And they make a lot of money. Like they'll charge tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a viral video for a company. So they got to come up with something weird and wacky that somehow makes people think of Coca-Cola, you know. And Coca-Cola spends a lot of money coming up with these kind of viral videos. It'll make everybody want to go, wow, did you see that video? Here, take a look at it. Isn't it incredible? That's going viral. So location hosting, YouTube, Vimeo. You want to encourage embedding of all types. This is the free-for-all. You don't want anything in the way of this getting out there. No barriers. Okay, so that's your brand building. You know, that includes Facebook and Google Plus, and you just go crazy. Okay, looking for the right tools. This is where it gets very custom for your individual business. First of all, you have to decide on the type of video. And I've broken them down into two types, and there's more. You can get more detailed and break it up anymore. I have two types. You want to do screen type demos, tutorials, or how-tos, or you want to get out of the room, away from your desk, and do things that have to do with showing somebody out in the field. how to do something, or about your product or how it integrates. So you can't use the webcam on your computer to do that. You need to have a camcorder to go out and do that. So from there you need to choose the right recording device, and choose the and or a screen recording software. So your recording device would be like your camcorder, and your screen recording device would be like a webcam, or like on a Mac, it's built right in to the top of your Mac. There's a little video thing right up there that does it for you. And last but not least, once you do all that, you may or may not have to do some video editing. And that, again, depends on your needs. Sometimes the best videos are the really basic, simple ones that you just do kind of free-for-all. And they become very popular because they're kind of, it's very common for that kind of raw, homemade look. And so don't be afraid of looking a little raw and homemade, because that's okay. You don't have to look like you spent $1 million on it, especially in some types of markets. It actually will help you and not hurt you. Okay, let's look at camcorders real quick. This is not an exhaustive list. I would have had to go through 4 or 5 pages and talk about CD chips, and it could go on and on. As a matter of fact, I do that in the ebook. So if you want to know more about these individual things, look at the ebook. I'm just showing you the things and the buzzwords that you're going to need to pay attention to if you decide to get a camcorder. File format compatibility with your software and with your computer. Storage formats. There's mini DV, DVD, HDD, which is your hard drive, SD, which is a little chip that slips into the camcorder and you take in and out. Each one of those has advantages and disadvantages. Depends on your needs, so you need to kind of look at what's going to work best for you. Connectors, USB, FireWire are the 2 biggies that usually work for just about every situation. But if you need to, let's say, plug right into a TV at your customers or something like that, you may need some of the other types of connectors. The HDMI, there's a lot of other connectors that could be found on some cameras. Okay? But these are the 2 biggies, and if it has these 2, most of the time, it's going to work well for you. Quality and pixels has to do with CCC chip. That's the chip that actually records the light that comes in. It's behind the lens. How does it handle low light? Some cameras don't handle low light very well. So, and if you're doing something in a situation where there may be low light, that's going to be important to you. If you're doing something outside where there's lots of light, that may not be important to you. So you need to keep that in mind. The little screen, like at the back of this camera, so that you can actually see what's going on and play something back to see if you got what you wanted before going home. That's an important thing too, and I pretty much think that's universal now. Didn't used to be, but I think that's become pretty much universal. Optical zoom is a good thing, so you can zoom in and out and get close-ups. For your situation, it may not mean anything. You may be doing a broad kind of video and you don't want to pay for a fancy optical zoom. That is invariably going to probably cost a little more. Recording time is related to storage, which gets us back up to here. Different storage media allow for different times. Like on a HDD, 15 minutes translates to about 1 gigabyte of storage. So for every gigabyte, you've got about 15 minutes of recording. So that's one of the things you want to keep in mind. And last but not least, batteries. That can really be a pain. If you've ever had a recorder, I don't have currently modern recorder. My daughter is the one who does that, so she handles that issue. But I can remember our first video recorder that we used when my kids were little, and batteries was always the headache. They were always going out. They never lasted as long as they were supposed to. So basically, I tell you, never trust them. Never trust whatever they say about their batteries. You know, basically, the best you can get out of that is a comparison. If one recorder says you can get an hour, and the other one says an hour and a half, all you know is that one's a tiny bit better than the other. You don't know whether you're going to get an hour. You just know you'll get more than the other guy. You know, whatever that means. It may be 45 minutes versus an hour in reality. Because they're going to maximize their recording time in their spec sheet. They're going to find the most ideal conditions under the lowest quality of whatever, to see how long they can make their battery last. So they can put it on their little spec sheet and make you think that, wow, I get 3 hours out of a battery. So basically, don't trust them. I saw that in more and more reviews on cameras where they'll say, well, they said it was 2 hours and I barely got an hour type thing. That was just a constant comment on people reviewing camcorders. I spent almost a week every night reading reviews, things like that on this stuff. So my brain has gone camera mushed. Webcam, a lot of the same issues, but they have different kinds of buzzwords. They spend more time talking about megapixels. You really want 640 by 480 as a minimum quality. Remember, that, again, that's what you're doing. Most of the time you're going to be recording what's on your screen, and depending on whether you're looking at a fine art or something, or just text, you may not need much more than that. Frame rate also depends on how rapid the action is going on your screen when you're doing a screen recording. If you are showing something that involves showing an animation, then you're going to want to have a bigger number than 30 FPS. You're going to want, because otherwise it'll be jerky. But for the most part, you start at 30 frames per second. That's FPS is frames per second. That's usually a good middle ground quality that'll cover most everything unless you really get into high action kinds of things. Glass lens only. Stay away from plastic lens. You might get lucky, but most of the time there's been bad things said about it. When you go to that camera that has a plastic lens and you read the comments, it's like, never buy this one because of the plastic lens, the distortion, they go on and on. So forget that. Glass lens. Autofocus features. When you're sitting in front of your webcam, you want it to focus on you. And if you bob your head and weave, you want it to stay focused on you. So most cameras do that now, but make sure that is explicitly something that's there. Again, low light quality. Using a webcam, you're probably indoors, and you're going to have light issues. You don't want to have to be in a position where you put up big lights and it's like a film studio in your room where you're doing it. You would like to just use your ambient light that's in your room and have it all work out. So if it has low light capabilities, then that's will probably work out real well. Microphone, definitely want a microphone unless you're just showing something, you're just going to dub in music later on. I see a lot of videos where they don't have any speaking, they're just showing something and there's some music playing in the background that they dub in later. Indicator light, that's simply a light that shows you that it's running. So that way you know it's running. It's always a good idea. And again, that appears to be universal for most of them, but there's a few that didn't have it. And the last thing is various compatibility issues. Compatibility with where you want to send it. Like some people want to send it immediately to YouTube. And so that's a good feature. A feature of this, we can publish it right to YouTube for you. Boom. That would be a good feature. Now, if you're not sending these to YouTube, that might be a feature you don't care about. Like for my needs, I like to come out as an MP4 because then that comes into my type of equipment on the Mac real well. Okay? So you need to look at that compatibility format with your software and with your computer and where it's going to go. Because you don't want to have to get into translating it. There's some good programs that encode from one version to another, but that's a whole nother job. And it's a whole nother piece of software, and it's a whole nother concept that you have to learn. So you would like it to be as direct as possible. Because you don't want to be, a specialized videographer like what's your name?
Joe.
Joe. And that's great for Joe, but most of the rest of us don't want to have to specialize in it that much. We have other things we need to be doing. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, screencasting. Basically, screencasting is the process of composing a script, recording on-screen action, and then adding text, audio, and other effects to it. So when you hear the word screencasting, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that whole process. Now, you may only do the first two and not really get into the second one. So you're not locked into doing all of those to be screencasting. You may only be doing, then that may be it. And you may not even bother with composing a script because, hey, you've been doing this so often that you can do it blindfolded with both hands tied and one arm tied behind your back and, no problem. So you don't have to bother with a script. And remember we talked about that kind of real life atmosphere is good for many things. Okay, levels. These are the kind of things that you might do with screencasting. One, sharing quick, short demos. No editing. Just record, put it up on YouTube. Bang, bang. You're done. Okay? You might include fast action or embedded action. That might dictate the kind of screen recording software you use. Okay, it may have to be a little fancier to handle that. You may be able to control the frame rates, for example. Long sessions with editing. Okay, can your screen recording software handle that? Some can, some can't. I just recently spent, several months ago, decided to look up a better screen recording software for our needs, and I spent almost 2 months on it. Yeah, I tried at least 7 or 8 of them. Went through, did the videos, tried the different things, and I finally settled on one. But man, there was a wide variety of quality and places where it stumbled or it didn't quite do what I wanted and ended up with a mess. So it's editing can be a problem. Professional enhancements, text effects, sound effects, splicing. Some screen recorders have some of that built right in a little bit at a beginning level. That may be enough for you. Some you may have to get into a video editor to really get fancy, and does it produce the formats necessary to go directly from your screen recording right into your editor software. So those are all issues. I was telling you, this gets complicated.
So how do you said you were able to try 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah, I probably, close to 7 or so.
How were you able to try them?
A lot of them, at least in the Mac, you could download a trial version and install it, and you see the time, the clock ticking on here, you install it, and you run your script, and you do it, and you try all the things you think you need to do, and you discover that it's missing something that wasn't in their little advertisement. Now, first of all, I tried to read their specs to pick the ones that I thought would cover all the bases. Only one of those really covered all the bases of my needs. Now, does that mean it's better than the others? No. It covered my needs.
Which one?
Screen'em. It's called Screen'em. It's from Denmark. But that was for the Mac. So that's a Mac-specific report. What it did is I needed very basic editing, but I didn't want to then move it into iMovie, which is good, but it was way too much for what I was doing. It was taking me too long to edit it. Whereas in Screen'em, I was able to do the 3 or 4 things I needed to do, bang, bang, and be done. So it was record, boom, and out. I got it done very efficiently and fast that way.
Can you tell us what you didn't like about the Camtasia?
It cost too much.
That's
Screen'em
what
cost-
everybody says, yeah.
Screen'em cost $29 or something.
But I hear it's worth it.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but it didn't have more features than I needed. I mean, why should you buy features you don't need? Right? I mean, that's the goal that I'm trying to get across to you, is know what your features are, so that you're not spending $100 on something that a $29 software will do just perfectly for you. I mean, we're small businesses, we're not multimillionaires, so we don't have that kind of money just to play. Oh, that's good, I'll buy it. No. You don't want to buy a Mercedes if all you're going down is the post office and home. Unless you just really like Mercedes, and that's okay too. I'm not putting it against you, but that's not why you buy the Mercedes. You bought it because you just really like it.
I'm sorry, so going back to Screen'em, it's really easy to use then, yeah? It's a one-time user fee, $29 and that's it?
Yeah, it was 29 something, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was really good. It allowed me to zero in on a part of the screen or use the whole screen. It allowed me a lot of flexibility. It went right into an editor, allowed me to edit it, add text, move it around.
How long did it take you to figure it all out?
Actually, that was the other good part about it. I was able to figure it out pretty quickly without ever looking at the manual.
Spell Screen'em.
Awesome.
Screen and then IUM.
IUM. So are there any, as Google has Picasa, do they have a similar product for video?
I don't quite get your question.
Picasa is a photo editing software
Mhm.
that is a free download from Google, and you upload your pictures and you can do things with it for photos. Is there such a product for videos? For us that know nothing about videos.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I was suggesting, I'll get into a list of those shortly here. There's some for Windows and there's stuff for the Mac. I'm most familiar with the Mac just because that's what I use all the time, but I did do some research on the Windows. Okay.
Does the screen offer a free trial?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even touch it if I could do a free trial.
Right.
I didn't have a free trial, sorry.
Right.
You're not getting my business. Okay, so these are some of the options that I used in my analysis. Flexible capture area, that was a big plus for me because I could go from a window to the whole screen to a fixed area to following my mouse. I had all those options in which to do it. There are some times where you're doing detail work and you want the screen to follow just your mouse with a nice big view so they can really see it. Launching options, to be able to turn it off and on as you're working. You know, you don't necessarily want the recorder going while you're fumbling with something. You want to be able to shut it off, and a nice hotkey shut off is a good feature. Annotation features, just means slapping some text on there real quick. Arrows pointing at something, you know, this is where you want to go. Also, the mouse, I didn't put that on here, the mouse effect. When you click, what does it do to show the user that you click the mouse? A number of them, and this was pretty universal with most of them I saw, when you clicked it did a little boing, boing, so that the user could see, you clicked it, or you double clicked it, or whatever. Or when you held the mouse, it sort of, and you drag it and let go of it. So it gave some animation to the mouse effect so that people really saw what you were trying to do with the mouse. Video editing, some had no video editing whatsoever, some had a little bit, and some had the moon. So I wanted a little bit, so that's what I chose. Video outputs, you have MP4, which is an extension of the QuickTime format, which is, the QuickTime format is MOV. Then you have your Flash format, you have your Windows primary format, and this is also a Windows format. So those are, and there's a whole bunch more. Okay, I could have, again, gone on with a whole bunch of open source ones, and there's web, it's called Web TV, or that's an open source one that's starting to become popular. So there's a lot of formats out there. Okay, now we're looking at the tools. These are considered by looking at the different websites and links, the top 5 in terms of popularity. Okay, and you have that on your list there. You have Captivate, Demo Builder, Mimic, Viewlet Builder, and Camtasia Studio. Okay, these are like the top 5 in terms of popularity. Doesn't mean that they're right for you. I just wanted to give you a little list to get you started.
So, pardon me, a video recording tool versus an editing tool, can you?
The primary function is screen recording. Some of them have editing as part of it. We're going to get to the purely video editors later. These are not necessarily purely video editors. Some of them have video editing capabilities, but their primary function is screen recording. That's to record what's going on your screen. That's their primary function. Then they might have some video editing functions with that.
That's assuming I'm using my webcam on top of my computer, as opposed to a separate
Right, and
recording device.
right, which we're going to get to.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so much to cover here. I'm sorry if that wasn't entirely
No,
clear.
again, I'm a green pea, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Better to ask the question. Okay, here's the matching list of top 4. It was a shorter list in terms of getting what was really, really popular. Notice Screen'em landed on the list also. These were like the top 4. ScreenFlow is like the most popular based on, searching around. I show you, and I tried all of them, and I had nothing against the other ones other than it was more difficult to do some of the things I needed to do. It just didn't flow right on through so that I could, I really value my time. So boy, anything that bogs me down, you're out of here. because I just have so little time as it is. Okay, now let's get into video editing. Yes?
What about Jamie?
Oh, yes. Jing. Matter of fact, we've used Jing. Okay, the free Jing is you get 5 minutes. And it's good. Very good, but you get 5 minutes, that's it. And then, of course, then you have to get into the paid. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just found Screen'em to be a little better in the things I really wanted to do.
Hold on, I'm sorry, it's TechSmith, and it's Snagit, I mean, what I was just trying to say is, I'm interested in Screenium, but with him bringing up Jing, I mean, it's really no longer Jing anymore.
And there, the last we used it, which was about a year ago, there was a free service called Jing, and you could
It'll
go
display
in.
the little logo if you take the free version.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, I'm just saying, but as far as what he was saying, yeah, because I was actually interested in getting TechSmith also as well,
Mhm.
which would be easy to snag it for their screen capturing.
Mhm.
But I think the Screening is worth taking a look at, because like I said, it's really quick. I think with Snagit, you have to spend like at least a couple hours
Yeah,
trying to figure it out
yeah, that's what I wanted to avoid.
to avoid.
As it was, I was spending a lot of time figuring out which one I wanted.
Yeah, you spend all this time.
Yeah, thanks for doing that for us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You have the different tools under Windows and Mac. Are they interchangeable, or they can only be used with Mac and Windows?
They're generally not interchangeable, and with the exception of those that are online, like the free James online, so it's a Java application. There's some open source ones that I'm not really going to mention because they're very technical and require a high learning curve, but they're written in Java, which means again it could be Mac or Windows. So yeah, there's a lot of them out there that can go both ways. The really top leaders in each of the categories tend to be very specific to that operating system. You know, that's just the way it's panned out.
So Screenium is not a good choice for Windows.
No, it doesn't work for Windows. It's strictly a Mac stuff. Okay, these are the free stuff. You have Windows Movie Maker, which obviously you're going to find on Windows XP on all up, as far as I know. At least that's what it appears. I don't know about Windows 8. I don't know if anybody knows about Windows 8. Apple iMovie does everything you can imagine, but it is got a learning curve that goes along with that. I know, I struggled with it. I had to do some very simple things, and I had to go download various tutorials and read this and read that before I finally figured out to do something that seemed like I should have been able to do without looking up anything. And the other problem with the latest iMovie is, my computer has 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's like the top of the line for the MacBook Pro. Maximum hard drive, maximum everything. When I buy a notebook, I buy top of the line. I buy the top of whatever it is. And it took 10 minutes to load iMovie. That's enough for me right not there not to use it. So, and I saw a lot of complaints for that. For some reason, hopefully they'll fix that. But right now, iMovie is a real dog. Avid free DV and Wax and how do you say that? Ewestein?
Zweistein.
Zweistein?
It's German.
Yeah, it is German, but I'm not German. Weichstein. Okay. Anyway, these are the free ones out there. They all had good things to say about them. So here's your entry-level Windows, Corel Video Studio, Move Adobe Premiere Elements. That's kind of their entry for their Premiere product. Neural, which used to make DVD burning software, now has gone into video editing software, and Pinnacle Studio. Those sort of like entry-level, you're a beginner, yes.
I'd like to throw some business their way, but Sony has some good editors. It's called Movie Studio Pro, and they have HD Platinum. You can get the basics anywhere between like $50 to about $130 on the lower end.
So it's a good entry level?
Yeah, and like you can go up to like $600, but I didn't need it.
No, I'm talking about kind of the entry level, something that a beginner can handle.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. And it's kind of like Photoshop, and like the more you dig, you're like, I wonder if I could do that. And then like as you keep going, you realize like, I can't.
Yeah, see now, I don't like Photoshop. I use GIMP.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
The idea is
GIMP,
that it's a,
GIMP seems logical to me. Photoshop, I get lost. Now, my daughter is a Photoshopaholic. So,
Yeah, it's the same thing, it's just different navigation through the interface.
I just don't draw, what's that, growth draw?
And isn't GIMP free too?
Yeah.
well,
That's
when,
what I
Yeah,
think.
and it's free too. That was the other good thing about it.
when I say it's like Photoshop though, it means that it's powerful in the sense that, like, if you think of something that you want to do, like, it probably has the feature for it.
Yeah.
And I would recommend it. But it's $50 to $130. They're different steps of what they
Right.
include.
Well, that's good.
What did you say it was called?
The HD Movie Studio
HD Movie Studio. So.
by Sony. Yes.
Okay. It didn't show up on any of my lists that when I went out and researched the video free stuff. Not free stuff, I mean entry level. How did I get back on that screen? It must have
Does your daughter use a Mac or a PC?
Mac. We're Macaholics over in our world. I do have Windows machines. Actually, I started my computer world life in Windows. Actually, I did not like a Mac until OS 10 came out. I never used a Mac until OS 10 came out, and then when I saw OS 10, I converted the next day.
So do you
I
have a
liked OS 10.
$29 suggestion for Windows?
Well, $29 suggestion, you mean for this
Well, like your,
screen of thing?
yes.
I really didn't pay attention a whole lot to the prices other than just what was popular at that entry level. So yeah, you're gonna have to, I didn't look at the prices per se. The only reason I
Making
used
us do our own homework, is that what you're saying?
To learn
Yeah,
better.
but I'm already past my 45 minutes, see, so I've gotta kind of hurry and get through here. See, that's my problem, is so much. Entry level on the Mac, your Final Cut, online video editing, which there's a lot of stuff out there that does online and uses Java, and Adobe Premiere Pro is real popular on the Mac. And, see, we just about did it, 45 minutes. We're coming back to our last slide, and these are the things that we tried to do today. We talked about adding videos to your website and what that means, and how do you decide what your goals are for putting a video on your website. Make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, that you're doing it to fulfill a business need, and not doing it because somebody said this was a neat thing to do and then wondering how it fits into your business. Otherwise, you're going to fail, and you're going to say, ugh, and you're going to miss an opportunity to do it the right way. Difference between camcorders and webcams, how to choose the right recording tool. We talked about a bunch of features. We talked about what screencasting is and some of the recorders and stuff that goes along with that. And we talked about guidelines for choosing the right screen recording tools along with a list of them. And then we looked at some common video editors that are sort of the top 5 in those categories. Okay? And that's it for today. Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you.
To answer his question, there's a